The meeting in Brussels today marks one of the most consequential shifts in European migration governance in recent years. After months of negotiations, EU interior ministers have reached an agreement to significantly tighten the bloc's common asylum policy. The decision introduces new mechanisms that change how asylum applications are assessed, how rejected applicants are processed, and how responsibility is shared among member states. Cameras captured the start of the Brussels meeting as Danish Minister for Immigration and Integration, Rasmus Stoklund, rang a ceremonial bell to open the session. Delegations from across the European Union took their seats, and discussions began on a reform package that has been debated repeatedly throughout the year. The core provision adopted today is the introduction of so-called return centres in third countries located outside Europe. Under the plan, rejected asylum seekers who cannot be sent back to their countries of origin may instead be transferred to these external centres. EU officials described the framework as a response to long-standing operational and legal challenges that have made returns difficult for certain nationalities. The ministers agreed that the centres would operate only with partner countries that meet EU-defined standards, but critics immediately expressed concern, questioning whether such facilities can comply with European and international law. These concerns have been raised by legal experts, humanitarian organisations, and some members of the European Parliament, who argue that outsourcing return procedures risks weakening EU obligations toward asylum seekers. Parliamentary approval is still required before the measures can take effect, meaning the proposal will enter another round of institutional scrutiny. Another major element of the agreement concerns procedures at the EU's external borders. Under the new rules, asylum seekers whose applications are assessed as having no realistic prospect of success can now be turned back directly at the border. Officials say this aims to reduce pressure on frontline states and shorten processing times. Countries such as Greece and Italy have repeatedly called for stronger border management tools in light of sustained arrivals throughout 2024 and 2025. The cutting list from Greece illustrates the type of scenes that have shaped the political urgency around these discussions. Footage from Lavio in July 2025 shows migrants disembarking from boats, walking toward port police buildings, and waiting in holding areas. Close-up shots reveal groups sitting in small courtyards while officers observe them from nearby. The images reflect the operational strains faced by coastal authorities managing irregular arrivals across the Aegean Sea. Similarly, scenes from Lampedusa in Italy on the 14th of August 2025 show rescue personnel, medical workers, and aid organisations assisting new arrivals from an Italian Coast Guard vessel. Ambulances and Red Cross vehicles can be seen manoeuvring through crowded port areas as teams provide first response. These images have become central to Europe's debate on migration burden sharing, highlighting the repeated pressures on southern entry points. To address this imbalance, EU interior ministers also finalised reforms to the solidarity mechanism. The new system requires each member state to contribute either by accepting relocated asylum seekers from frontline countries or by making a financial payment for each person they decline to take in. The contribution has been set at €20,000 per individual not accepted. This system is designed to ease the burden on member states facing what officials describe as migration pressure. Germany, among the countries expected to contribute significantly, would have to either relocate refugees from Greece, Italy, and other heavily affected states, or pay the financial equivalent. Discussions around the German position have been ongoing throughout the negotiations, with Berlin balancing domestic political concerns and its long-standing commitment to EU solidarity frameworks. Throughout today's session in Brussels, the ministers stressed that the agreement aims to create a more predictable and coordinated system for handling asylum claims. According to officials, the reforms intend to reduce irregular migration flows, support countries experiencing high arrivals, and ensure that decisions on asylum are implemented consistently across the bloc. However, the parliamentary approval phase remains uncertain. Several political groups within the European Parliament have signalled resistance, particularly regarding the external return centres. Some argue that transferring rejected applicants to third countries risks weakening legal safeguards. Others warn that the agreements required with non-EU states may prove difficult to negotiate or sustain. The debate is expected to intensify in the coming weeks as lawmakers assess the compatibility of the measures with EU treaties and human rights obligations. Commission officials say they will provide detailed legal assessments to address these concerns. In Greece, local authorities have stated that continued high arrivals underscore the need for comprehensive reform. The scenes captured in Lavio, where migrants disembark from overcrowded boats and await processing in temporary facilities, reflect ongoing operational pressures. Greek officials have repeatedly requested stronger European support to manage flows across the Mediterranean and Aegean routes. Italian rescue and medical teams have expressed similar concerns. The situation in Lampedusa, as shown in the footage of early August, demonstrates the logistical challenges of sudden mass arrivals. Emergency workers often handle multiple disembarkations within short timeframes, resulting in shortages of space, personnel, and equipment. Within this broader context, the new EU agreement attempts to address both immediate and structural issues. The return centres are presented as a long-term solution for individuals who cannot legally remain in Europe yet cannot be repatriated. The border turnback rule is intended to allow faster preliminary assessments, reducing prolonged stays in processing facilities. And the solidarity mechanism seeks to distribute responsibilities more evenly across the Union. Governments supporting the reform argue that failure to adopt coordinated rules would heighten political tensions within the EU and leave frontline countries without adequate assistance. Opponents, however, continue to warn of legal risks and potential humanitarian implications, urging Parliament to scrutinise the package thoroughly. As the meeting concluded, officials emphasised that today's agreement represents a major step in a multi-year effort to revise the EU's asylum and migration framework. However, they acknowledged that the process is not complete until the European Parliament provides its approval and the implementing regulations are drafted. The timeline for parliamentary debate is expected to extend into early 2026, depending on committee scheduling and negotiations among political groups. During this period, member states will continue to operate under existing rules while preparing administrative systems for the potential transition. For Greece and Italy, the upcoming months will remain challenging. Seasonal migration trends suggest continued arrivals along maritime routes, requiring coordination between national authorities, EU agencies, and humanitarian organisations. The reform's effectiveness, officials say, will depend on its ability to reduce irregular flows while ensuring that member states uphold shared legal obligations. Back in Brussels, the discussions captured on camera from the opening bell to the final exchanges between ministers reflect the seriousness with which the EU is approaching the migration issue. While the agreement marks a significant policy shift, its implementation will require careful coordination across institutions and member states. The reform package will now move to the European Parliament for the next phase of the legislative process. Lawmakers will evaluate the proposals, amend provisions where necessary, and determine whether the measures align with EU legal standards. If approved, the changes would represent one of the most substantial restructurings of the EU's asylum system in over a decade. If rejected, the bloc will return to negotiations, prolonging a debate that has shaped European politics for years. For now, EU interior ministers have delivered a unified position on tightening procedures, expanding external partnerships, and reinforcing shared responsibility. The coming months will determine whether this consensus can be translated into law and implemented across the Union. The situation now enters a decisive legislative phase, with the future of the EU's reformed asylum framework dependent on parliamentary approval and member state coordination.